Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to have a conversation about the CIRIGHTS dataset and the work that we've all done this semester and throughout the summer. This is the world's largest human rights dataset, and I can say that pretty confidently now. We have almost 100 different human rights measured for every country in the world, and the ultimate goal is to measure every human right. And what we do is we look at government and NGO reports of human rights practices around the world, and we employ text analysis to basically turn what is happening around the world into data using a set of coding guidelines. And today we're going to talk with people who've been working on this project all semester about their experiences, what they've learned, some big takeaways, hopefully get you interested in using this data going forward. So I just want to start off and say, what right were you most interested in? Anyone can jump in.
For me personally, one of the most interesting rights to me is rights of prisoners in general. The reason behind that, or the reason behind that goes back to my own country, Syria, as the Syrian civil war / revolution has all started because of that reason. I think we're getting arrested just because of their just they protested or they wanted to beat them in the democracy, whatever the case may be. And I was interested in that because everything could have been prevented just by having this one right. And it breaks my heart to even say that, but that was one of the most greats that I wanted to learn more and I was able to expand my knowledge.
For me, I think it was human social rights. It was the first right I kind of researched in the summer. And going into it, I didn't know what human social rights meant. It turns out there's so much layers to it. There's a lot in that one sentence going on. And just the research we've done, we found out how many countries my things. But we thought was universal rights. So that's probably
I'm just going to jump in and say I was going to say women's social rights, and they still are my favorite group of rights, I would say. But not to repeat Jack, I would go with the right. I don't even know how to formulate it, I guess, but it's that right of letting when the governments are letting domestic and international human rights organizations to function, to do their job, to basically analyze what rights regular populations have or do not have within the country. So that was interesting.
I focused mostly on like making maps and doing like data visualization stuff, so I didn't focus on a ton of human rights, but I wanted to look into the trafficking. I just I thought it'd be interesting, and I don't think I realized how this could sound. I don't think I realized how big of a problem it was still. Especially like not just from sex trafficking, but like labor trafficking, trade migrants, like trafficking migrants illegally and improperly, even among countries that like have relatively strong anti-trafficking laws. Like there are some that doesn't require like deception or like any type of coercion to constitute Israel. It does require coercion to constitute child sex trafficking. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is not the case in international law. And I don't think that's the case in any country's law. Children can't consent to any of that. So it's very interesting to me that even in countries that have really strict laws on this, and generally see this as very countries with protections. This having trafficking is something that really gets overlooked.
I think for me it was freedom of domestic movement, because I was thinking that, let's say, even if you take a country that doesn't, support human rights or, let's say, neglect pretty much all of them, you would think that one should be able to move within its own country, but apparently there are still a lot of countries out there that don't allow their own citizens to travel from like one city to another, forget about like leaving the country. So I think that's kind of like shocked me a little bit.
And I was kind of taken aback at how sort of or I wouldn't say backwards, but how a lot of countries don't have a lot of respect for child labor rights. So, and one that really surprised me was Iceland, and how, I mean, it does make sense considering they have a smaller population, but how they didn't score very well in our analysis of child labor rights and not putting children to work, especially because they don't protect children, or they allow children to work starting at the age of 13, which is, it's pretty young to be a child at barely a teenager and be put into the workforce, and especially considering the United Nations and the International Labor Organization are trying to ensure proper development of children. Being thrown into the workforce at such a young age is pretty tough and can be detrimental to a child's life.
So I think that's a really good segue into the next question, which is what country surprised you, right? So Iceland having, not great child labor scores, at least the way we've coded it, is really interesting, right? It's not a country you would expect to have child labor. What other countries surprised you?
For me personally, it was Canada with women's rights. Take this country that's the Native American culture is so engraved in its society and pop culture, and just to have this even indigenous people just absolutely awful, kind of hypocritical, recent years without money out of it, but just the fact it kind of happens in diverse groups.
For me, it was Norway and Finland when it came to freedom of religion. One might think that, well, it's a Scandinavian country and it's extremely developed, civilized countries, but turned out that even countries like that can score like 0 at certain rights. And I think that was kind of an interesting case for me.
When I was analyzing women's social rights, one of the criteria that we were looking at was the male genital mutilation or cutting, and there is a lot of very depressing ratings that we have to do, and one country that, even though we don't pick favorites, but I have to say that I wish a lot of other countries would look at Spain and the way it's dealing with eradicating this harmful practice. So just briefly, the law prohibits FGM in Spain, and doctors must ask parents residing in the country who originate from countries that traditionally practice female genital mutilation to sign a declaration promising that their daughters will not undergo FGM even when they travel outside of Spain, in hopes that they will do it elsewhere, right, in another country. So once the family returns back to Spain, a doctor must examine the girl again, and basically, I feel that this type of law proves that it's not just something that the country put on their like law books, but they actually care. So, yeah.
Well, this question is a very related question. So many countries to choose from, and so many rights to wander upon. But I would say But as I mentioned earlier, political prisoners and prisoners in general is what I'm interested in this and one country that we have much information was Norway. It was just like it basically stated in the report that they're good. However, I want to know. So I went and Googled and I watched some of the documentaries and videos on YouTube, and I was amazed. I don't know how truthful that was, but in Norway, prisoners are living their thing. I thought to be a prisoner. So obviously that I was happy to see how they're treated like human beings who has soul was able to function and actually become better in society or any society. So that was amazing for most of them.
I answer this question first. So, I think something that surprised me was that Afghanistan actually had very strong anti-trafficking laws as well to put wet. So practice I believe was pretty similar because there's not a strong judicial system in the country, there's corruption, there's lots of other factors difficult to stop that. I'm willing to prosecute it and just make some paper and everything. I think another thing that really surprised me is that like one of the criteria that the U.S. State Department looks at for whether or not a country is making efforts to end human trafficking is like reducing the demand for commercial sex, which makes sense. However, I think it ignores the fact that like that is a legitimate form of employment income for some people. The issue is when it's forced traffic. So I think in countries where like prostitution is more socially acceptable, I think those countries might see a lower score just based on that. And there are also some countries that didn't fully outlaw like child sex trafficking or child trafficking, which was it's a very upsetting topic, but there were a lot of surprises.
And your point about Afghanistan brings up something that really surprised me across the board, was that how a lot of countries, they point to the laws that they have and say, oh, we are very good at respecting this right because we have all these laws on the books. But when it gets down to it in the practice of it, they don't really have that. And I think a lot of that symbolism is really what I've seen across this data set, and how countries, they will say they want to make the world a better place, but the status quo still persists.
Well, thank you all for talking a little bit about the data set, and I really hope everyone gets a chance to explore it, learn something from it, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you.